Good evening, everyone. May I have your attention, please? So my name is Adjoba Kyiamah, and I run the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce in Accra, Ghana. And I'm delighted to be here today, leading a strong delegation from Ghana. And I have a few of the CEOs and executive directors that came with us that are going to be joining me on the stage this afternoon. It's unfortunate that we're in the last session, so I know people are tired, but we'll try and make it as engaging as possible. To start with, I would like to introduce Edward Ashong-Lartey, who is the Director of Investor Services at the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. He's going to do a presentation for us, and then when he's done, we will have a panel discussion, and I will introduce my panel members then. If you have any questions for Edward, please just hold on to them. When we're done with the panel discussion, we'll open up to the room for questions from the audience, and then you can direct any questions to Edward then. So Edward, your audience.
Good afternoon. And, before I start my presentation, I have a short video for all of us to watch. It summarizes what you can see in Ghana if you travel to Ghana even tomorrow. It's a 1-minute video, so please, I crave your indulgence to have this video shown. Thank you very much, and I would like to say that I'm making this presentation on behalf of the Chief Executive of the GIPs, Mr. Yofi Grant, who was originally scheduled to be here, but the job is such that sometimes you cannot be in two places at the same time. But he's been at AFSIC before, so the regular visitors to AFSIC will remember Mr. Grant, and so I'll take you through this. The investment ecosystem. Sometimes the word ecosystem is quite broad, you don't know how to, but I have my senior men here, so if I leave something out, I'm sure during the panel discussions, they'll fill in. So, please. First of all, I'll talk about the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. This is for the benefit of those who don't know GIPC. We're a government agency, and our mandate is to promote and coordinate investments in the Ghanaian economy. We do that with a number of stakeholders. I'll come to that on a different slide. But what we normally do is to provide advisory services. We are also mandated to register incoming investments as well as local investments so that we know who is coming in, where the investments are going, and then if there's a need to course correct in terms of government policy, we advise government as such. We also process requests for immigrant code, that has work permits. A foreign investor needs to make sure that he can bring in the needed manpower. We also assist with joint venture partnerships. So after my presentation, those who are looking at investing in Ghana and we're looking for partners, please contact me. We have a pipeline of projects as well as a project catalog which I'll be happy to share with you. We renew these projects every 2 years just to make sure that we know who is still in business, who is stuck somewhere along the way so that we can assist. We also carry out research. The investment landscape is quite dynamic, so it's important that our people are always out there trying to find out what is new. And we also identify specific projects for promotion. We've moved away from the general agro-processing or construction sector by preparing profiles on specific projects which you can then share with potential investors. At least with that, it will be very easy to engage in. You have some specifics to discuss. We have a compliance function just to make sure that people are doing what they are supposed to do. We grant incentives, and more importantly, we have a diaspora engagement program. I believe everyone here has a friend or relative in another country, and for us, they are a very powerful constituency in terms of the potential to assist with our economic development. So we at the GIPC have set up a special desk to engage the diasporas. We also register technology transfer agreements. In Ghana, we recognize intellectual property rights. So if you are providing a technological service to a company in Ghana, we do have the regulations to ensure that one, you can be sure of payments in terms of royalties or use of your technology. The Ghanaian investor too is also assured that he's not paying for a technology or trademark which is freely available. So it's a win-win in both cases. We negotiate bilateral investment treaties. This gives investors additional comfort, and we participate in fairs and exhibitions and conferences just like this one, because such events provide a huge platform for us to sell Ghana. As I said, the investment landscape is very, very dynamic and competitive, and if you sit in your little corner, I'm sure very soon nobody will know you exist, so we always have to be out there, and we are very strong on social media. It's a very cost-effective way to promote the country. So a bit of statistics on Ghana. We see we are the first in West Africa based on the rule of law. We are the most peaceful country. Those who have been to Ghana will attest to that. And GDP makes us the second largest economy in West Africa. We all know Nigeria is big brother, but Ghana is there, and we say we are the gateway to Africa. We are the 8th largest in Africa, and we have a population of about 32.8 million people. It's quite sizable. And still on Ghana, we are rich in natural resources. It's a preferred tourist destination. We have an agrarian economy. We have investors-friendly incentives, which I'll come to. And in terms of our political stability, this is unmatched. Ghana ranks first in investment attractiveness. We've maintained a strong and stable economic growth rate, averaging 6% over the past decade. Here, let me say that it's true, we went through some challenges, and through the IMF, we are on course to put the economy back on a path of sustained growth and development. It's just like a ship on rough seas. Definitely it will get to shore, and so we are on our way to shore. And let me just move to the next slide. In addition to foreign direct investments which we are attracting, we also promote and encourage local investments in the Ghanaian economy, and we do this through our regional sensitization program. We go all over the country to talk about who we are, and we do this in partnership with a number of institutions. The last quarter of this year, we'll be embarking on that, and we've invited the free zones and other institutions to join us. We also have a flagship program called the Ghana Club 100. This is to celebrate corporate Ghana, just like you have your Fortune 500 in other countries. And more importantly, we have youth entrepreneurship program. The future belongs to the youth, and the only legacy we can leave with them is to give them the proper foundation. So we do have these programs too as a center, and as I said, we do it in concert with a number of institutions. As a country, we say we are resource rich and this is my favorite map. It's very beautiful. It just tells you the richness of our resources, which translate into opportunities in tourism, infrastructure, manufacturing, agro-processing, energy. Here we are looking at the renewals, ICT, and you can see fintech at the bottom. It's the latest thing now. We're registering quite a number of fintech projects. And just before I came on stage, I met a gentleman who is looking at Ghana, and I hope to engage him after. Finance, we need a lot more finance in the system. We need different products for the different segments of the businesses that we do have. And so we're encouraging more businesses to come in. And then health and education. Education is very important. And if you have a very well-educated population, you can look forward to a very productive labor force. And so we are also promoting this sector. Now people have recognized the value of education, so they are prepared to pay. When I was in the university, we were always up in arms anytime government said pay even a penny. But given where we are now, people are ready to pay, and currently we have more private universities than government universities. The institutions that we collaborate with, as I said, we have the Ghana Free Zones Authority, the CEO is here, the Minerals Commission, the Export Promotion Authority. So depending on what you want to do, once you come to us through our advisory services, we will then direct you appropriately. And by working closely with these agencies, we make sure that the investor has a very good experience, because a satisfied investor is our best ambassador. We do have a number of legal and the legal and regulatory framework has a number of laws for the various sectors. We do have agencies who regulate these sectors, and it's important that we make investors aware of that. As I said, in Ghana, we believe in transparency, so before you come, you know what to expect and what your responsibilities are. The Petroleum Commission, Minerals Commission, the Banking Act, and of course the CEO of the Free Zones is here, so I'll leave him to talk about the free zones. We have the stock exchange, securities industries, just to name a few. In terms of, in terms of investment incentives, which cuts across all sectors, first of all is guarantee against expropriation. You can be sure that if you are legally registered, no one is going to take over your business. We also have a customs duty and exemption regime under our new exemptions law, and this is to streamline exemptions and make sure that the exemptions go to where we'll have a meaningful impact, as well as the business operations are concerned. Now, how to get your money out? Let me assure you all here that once you are properly registered, at the end of the day, if you make a profit and you pay what is due Ghana government by way of taxes, which generally is 25%, you can repatriate the dividends back to your home country. You can also transfer funds to pay for principal and interest on loans that you borrow, if that will make it better for you to do business in Ghana. And after liquidation, which I hope not, you can still transfer your funds. So moving your money in and out of Ghana is very easy. We have a very strong and robust financial services sector to provide your financial needs. I did talk about work permits, and under our law, we have the automatic immigrant quota system based on the investment levels. Under the free zones, they have an even more attractive incentive regime. I'm sure His Excellency will tell you that when he mounts a stage. We also have what we call time-bound work permits. There are some businesses where you don't need about $700,000, but you need maybe 5 skilled people. You cannot readily get them in Ghana, so we have this provision for you to bring them in to help you manage your manpower requirements. Ghana is primarily an agricultural country, and we've been talking about adding value to what we produce. So for the agro-processing sector, for the first 5 years, you pay 1%, and after that, you pay a reduced rate depending on where you are located. And these rates are even still lower than the general corporate tax rate, which I said is 25%. Still on the agric sector, for tree crop farming, you pay 1% for 10 years, after which you join the rest of us to pay 25%. For cash crops, it's 1%, and it goes on and on. And for the venture capitalists, you pay 1% for 10 years. So if you want to come in and support our businesses, please be assured that you pay only 1% of the profits you make for the first 10 years of operations. We know that there's not every business which will make a profit in the first, second, or third year of operation. Per industry standards, some can only see the black maybe in the fourth year. But in the absence of a tax holiday, what we have in our books is the loss carry forward provision for 5 years. So you can carry forward these losses so that even in the sixth year, if you make a huge profit, you can still claw back some of the losses you made in the previous years. And for those in the not so priority areas, 3 years. And then for the manufacturing industries, that is the non-agric manufacturing industries, you get a locational incentive. If you are located outside Accra, Tema, but in the other regional capitals, you have a 25% tax rebate. And then if you are outside the other regional capitals, you have a 50% corporate tax rebate. So this is also there for you. And for strategic investments, that is $50 million and above, there is a provision in the exemptions law for you to negotiate the type of incentives you would like to have. Now, Ghana was not spared during the global economic crisis, and to remedy these challenges, the government has put in place a number of measures to restore macroeconomic stability and accelerate economic transformation. You all know about our dealings with the World Bank. In addition, some of the measures are contained in the government's post-COVID-19 program for economic growth. We call it the PCPEG, and these include aggressively mobilizing domestic revenue, boosting local productive capacity, promoting a diversified and vibrant value-added export sector to bring in the needed foreign exchange, streamlining expenditures, protecting the poor and vulnerable, expanding digital and fiscal infrastructure, and implementing structural and public sector reforms. To achieve this, the government has placed a lot of emphasis on increasing FDI into the country, especially green FDI, to increase revenue mobilization and facilitate the implementation of the PCPEG program to revitalize and transform the economy. Within the medium term, the PCPEG seeks to achieve the following: overall real GDP to grow at an average rate of 4.3%, non-oil real GDP to grow at an average rate of 4%, inflation to be within the target band of 8 plus or minus 2%, and then the primary balance on commitment basis to average a surplus of 1.3% of GDP. Gross international reserves to cover at least 4 months of imports, so that you don't have to worry about having foreign exchange cover if you have to import some raw materials or items for your business. The center, in a bid to support investors and adopt the best practices, has also established the following to refocus the center's operations. I talked about the diaspora desk, and we also have an investor aftercare division whose job is to engage businesses and help them to overcome challenges. It's just like the car salesman who comes to you after sales to find out how you're finding the vehicle. If there are any challenges, you'll be the quick one to tell the workshop manager that we need to solve this man's problem so that he can also advertise our vehicle. And then we also have a monitoring and evaluation division, a business development unit to help us to identify specific projects for promotion. And then, to conclude, I know this is something that a lot of people have been on a case for, the review of the GIPC Act. And let me say that through extensive stakeholder discussions, the proposals are being put together for submission to the Ministry of to Cabinet through the Ministry of Finance. One of the areas that we're looking at is the minimum capital requirement, which most people think is a bit on the high side. For a joint venture, currently is $200,000, and wholly foreign is $500,000. But trust me, we'll see a significant reduction as far as these two major issues are concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to stay on stage or you rather?
You told them afterwards.
Ah, okay. So you want to wait in the audience. Yeah. Thank you very much, Edward. You've laid an amazing foundation for the conversation that's to follow. I would like to invite my panel members. So I have with me Ambassador Mike Oquaye, who is the CEO of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, Edward Koranteng, CEO of the Minerals Income Investment Fund. And unfortunately, we were supposed to have two people from the private sector, Izwe Loans and LMI Holdings, but unfortunately, they are not here. So Kwame Apenteng from Verdant Capital, he's a director in Ghana, has graciously agreed to represent the private sector, because otherwise, all of our speakers would be from the public sector. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Fortunately, we have gender balance because I am here. So like I mentioned earlier on, I run the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, and so MIF and Ghana Free Zones are strong allies of our work. And I suppose on the back of Edward's presentation, I'll probably have to start with Ghana Free Zones Authority. So, Your Excellency, would you like to tell us about what the Free Zones does and how you support foreign investors to settle in the free zones, and then also maybe share some success stories?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Adjoba, and good evening to everyone in the hall. Today being a Ghana Day, we're going to talk about Ghana in various areas, and so as not to go off on a tangent, I'll be guided by my notes so that, like a typical lawyer, I don't end up trying to convince a judge to free someone from their sins. Key sectors, very important, and these are very fundamental in Ghana: agro-processing, textiles and apparel manufacturing, a very exciting area. Information, communication, technology, ICT, very big in Ghana at the moment. I'll be elaborating on that. Same as business process outsourcing and pharmaceuticals. Ghana is very much known as the hub where the most of the drugs are produced and sold in other African countries. So many franchises have set up in Ghana. If you look at the BPO space in particular, it's also very relevant in terms of data entry and processing, call centers, software development, and also hardware assemble. And it's very important to illustrate quite a few big and not so big multinationals who are looking at Ghana as the ICT base. Google, for example, has set up majorly in Ghana. Microsoft, Hubtel, IBM, Websoft, IPMC, which is a local company but owned by an Indian and is virtually the biggest in the region. Websoft and Twitter, for example, has also set up majorly in Ghana. And when it comes to BPO, we also have very big companies who are in Ghana, business process outsourcing. We know that the focus has usually been in India. It's also been in the Philippines, but Ghana is also moving majorly in that area. So We're looking at fair trade, outsourcing, Busies, Amalitech Ghana Limited, Data Maker, and E-Process. Now, this is a very interesting bit. The reason why Ghana has particularly moved into this area is also competitive advantage, because usually on a scale base with the manufacturing, we are doing very well with the exports, but sometimes it's difficult to handle the market in the ECOWAS region. So the strategic plan of Ghana is to be like the Singapore of Africa, where we produce for the entire world. And this is very strategical because Ghana is on longitude 0, latitude 0. So whenever you're working in Ghana, you are able to have very good time zones with Europe. You have very good time zones with America, just a 5-hour or so lag if you're looking at the West Coast. And that is what has made us also very strategically poised with regard to BPOs, or business process outsourcing. Our labor workforce in Ghana, very educated. One of the biggest points is that Ghanaians speak very clear, precise English. And this gives us a big advantage over Philippines or India. I was ambassador in India for 4 years, so I like teasing my Indian friends. I say our accent is clearer, so we'll take the market from you. So you bring us the technology, we will bring the more neutral accent, and then we work together. So we are sort of setting up a Bangalore in Ghana. And that is also because, apart from our high literacy rates, we are very skilled in terms of the workforce. Ghana has a very educated population, and many people in the sub-region, especially Nigeria, Guinea, and so on, come to Ghana for their education, especially for undergrad and postgraduate studies. We also have very excellent connectivity, and we have the highly liberalized telecom, 16 telecom operations. In fact, in Ghana alone, apart from the smaller 16, we also have 6 major telecom operators who currently operate in Ghana. And we are the only country in sub-Sahara region with 5 landing points for international undercable, that's undersea cable. And this is very major for connectivity. We also have an extensive national fiber optic availability, which we worked on with Vodafone. And Google has also moved to operationalize what we call Project Link. And this is an initiative that provides what we call the last mile connectivity in our 2 major cities, which are Accra and Kumasi. And also Google is on the verge of starting what we call Project Loom. And Project Loom is to bring internet to the remote areas in Ghana. So you can see that Ghana is really moving towards ICT and BPOs and data processing in a very big way. When it also comes to textiles and garments, Ghana has really taken a big leap. I'll use that and agro-processing as the 2 final examples, because with textiles, I'll just give you one company, DTRT. So it was owned by a Ghanaian woman. They were just doing sewing and so on, but they partnered with an American company. They were doing 1 container or so a month, and now they are doing about 30 containers a week. Wow. Because the apparel business, the Ghanaian workforce is also available, and we're very good at the apparel business as well. As for cocoa, it goes without saying, processing cocoa in Ghana for the international market, you don't have to worry yourself about where you're going to sell your cocoa, because in terms of the liquor, the cake, and the milk as well, palm oil is something that is big. Shea nut, we know that the cosmetic industry needs a lot of shea. Shea butter is the best cosmetic, and we have lots of that in Ghana. Finally, let us look at how to park your business. You need an industrial park to be able to set up. And that is the area that the Ghana Free Zones is actually in charge of in Ghana. So we have the largest industrial park in Tema, and also we have just recently acquired 1,200 acres in Afienya, which is right next to Tema, apart from what we already have in the Western region and in the greater Kumasi area. Simply said, to qualify for free zone license, a few things have to be looked at. One, we don't set up zones to restrict you. So if you want your factory to be near your produce, let's say in the northern region, it's easier to work there, we'll give you a license so you can operate in that zone as far as it suits your business plan. After that, you have to be exporting a minimum of 70% outside Ghana. So you can still do 30% in Ghana, pay the regular tax, but you have to do a minimum of 70%. I dare say that most of the free zone companies, however, do export of 100% because it's easier to bulk that up in that regard. We also have various exemptions or incentives. So 100% exemption on income tax, except that's for 10 years. After 10 years, you don't pay the 25% corporate tax, you pay 15. So we'll give you a concession on that. There are various others too, like 100% exemption or from payment of direct and indirect taxes, and many other incentives that we'll give you more information on because we can't really talk about all of it here today. So in a nutshell, these are some of the opportunities in the free zone space, and anyone who is looking at a market where you can produce and easily reach other destinations, Ghana is a place for you in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think that's been very exhaustive in terms of the areas of opportunity. Yeah. However, you didn't talk about the mining and mineral sector. So, Nanaya, here's opportunity to tell us about the Minerals Income Investment Fund. What's the role of your company, particularly when we talk about green issues? We want to know what you're doing about promoting responsible and sustainable investment in Ghana's mineral sector.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here. I think I came with about 5 team members. So the Minerals Income Investment Fund is actually a sovereign wealth fund. It's what I call a specialty sovereign wealth fund because it's connected just to the mineral sector. We were set up in 2019, but we started our first investments in 2021. What we do primarily is that we are responsible for all the royalties that every single mineral pays in Ghana. In Ghana, we have about 17 mineral types, and each mineral type pays royalties to the government. So this sovereign wealth fund has been set up to receive these royalties and then reinvest into the sector. The other bit that we do is that we manage all of government of Ghana's equity interest in all mining companies. So by law, there's a carried interest of 10% for the government. We manage that equity interest, and the dividend and the royalties together then re-injected into the sector, obviously to garner more value for Ghana. We started with an AUM, assets under management, of around $195 million as at October 2021. As we speak, we've been able to cross the $1 billion assets under management line. We are around $1.4 billion. We expect that in 2030, we should be around $6 billion. The fund is critical, not just because we are investing into the sector, but we also provide co-investment options to investors looking at the mineral sector. So we are looking at, for example, let's just give an example here. So for example, I'm sure most of you have heard that we invested in the lithium space. So Atlantic Lithium, which is an Australian and UK listed company, is just about to start production in commercial terms. That's going to be West Africa's first lithium mine in production. And that's in the top 10 of lithium mines in the world. We are investing about $32.9 million into that. That provides a co-investment or de-risking mechanism for the likes of Piedmont and Atlantic Lithium. So Piedmont is an American company, and that's also investing in Atlantic Lithium in the Ghana project, and off-taking about 50% of the spodumene to cater for Tesla. What we have in terms of, that goes to Tesla. What we have in terms of that particular project is really just about 10 to 15% of what the production potential. The 10-15% actually powers 1.4 million Tesla cars. So we've invested, initial investments are 32.9, that gives us about 6% of the local entity, and then 3% of the foreign entity. I'm using this example to just provide some perspective on the setup of MIF. So we provide that de-risking mechanism for investors coming in, and that also in line with the co-investment options that we are looking at. However, the main option or the main objective is really to garner more value for Ghanaians and for Ghana in the mineral sector. Reason why this is important from a Ghanaian perspective is that for over 200 years we have been mining, especially gold, maybe 400 years. And you look at countries like, you look at cities like Vancouver, Perth, South Africa, Johannesburg, etc. You've seen, or you see the impact of mining and investment in mining in these cities. Unfortunately for Ghana, you don't really see that. So irrespective of the fact that we are number 6 in the world for gold production and number 1 in Africa, and the fact that in terms of surface area, we have more gold than any other country in the world, we are not seeing the direct positive impact on the cities. So the fund is geared towards having some sort of scientific direct way in investing in that sector and garnering more value in the mineral space. We're looking at, even though Ghana has 17 minerals, MIF is investing in a data bank that will cover about 15 more minerals, especially the critical minerals. So we're looking at moving beyond the 17 minerals to more than 30 minerals now. It just drives me straight into your second question about ESG.
Yeah.
ESG is fundamental in all we do, especially when it comes to investments. We have an ESG framework that underpins every investment that we are making. Again, for perspective, I'll give an example. Ghana's total gold output is made up of 30 to 40% of small-scale mining. So the artisanal mining contributes about 30 to 40% of our gold output, and that's about $2.4 billion a year. But that sector is bedeviled with quite a bit of issues that puts our small-scale gold export at risk. And this is what we call galamsey in Ghana. That's mining illegally in forest zones, water areas, etc. So because of that, we lose about maybe 50% of the output from the small-scale mining sector, irrespective of the fact that it contributes up to 40% of our total gold output. So what MIF is doing is we're investing in a program called Small-Scale Mining Incubation Program. That small-scale mining incubation program is broken down into 4 elements. The first is the provision of capital, which is converted into equity, provision of capital goods like machinery, etc., supporting with corporate governance of these mining companies, and then adopting a traceability mechanism. The traceability mechanism allows us to trace where the gold is coming from. So if the gold is coming from Town A, we know that the gold is actually coming from Town A, and the gold is not from an illegal mining venture. So we're starting with about $30 million for about 8 licensed small-scale mining companies. We intend to invest over 200 small-scale mining companies over the next 10 years, and we're starting with 8 to 10. What this means for the sector, is that it sorts of projects ESG as a fundamental or core to the kind of investments that we're making. So apart from it being core, it's actually going to formalize the small-scale mining sector. And then, I'm just trying to get the figures, but if you look at 2.4 billion a year, the implementation of this particular initiative will be, in 3 years' time, Ghana will be making about $6.4 billion with the implementation of this particular project.
It's exciting news for those of us who live in Ghana because it's been very, very topical, and we've been very worried about, the water bodies, and water is life. So, to hear about this capacity building program is exciting. So
that's the ESG part, and for investors, again, this provides an opportunity to look at that element or that aspect of the value chain, and come in to support. The good thing, and I'm open to, I've been told that my lawyers have told me I can mention it here. Metalor, for example, which is one of the biggest purchasers of gold doré from small-scale mining companies worldwide, left Africa because of illegal gold mining, because they provide gold to the likes of Cartier, Rolex, etc. So if there's any element of illegal gold in your Cartier watches, that could actually hurt Metalor. So they exited Africa, even exited parts of South America. But because of this initiative that we put in place, Metalor is coming back to Africa through MIF and to Ghana. So this is just an example of what we are doing and how these processes can support investments back into Ghana, especially when it comes to de-risking and co-investment.
Wonderful news. Thank you very much. So, Kwame, you are coming from Verdant Capital, and of course, as the name suggests, you're a financial institution, non-bank. Could you please talk to us about access to finance? That is quite a challenge, and whether there are any specific sectors. We've heard about the areas of opportunity in Ghana. We've heard about what MIF is doing. What are the areas that Verdant Capital focuses on, and how can people access financing from Verdant Capital?
Thank you. So we're an investment banking team out of Joburg. We have an office in Ghana, Congo, Harare, and we have two aspects of our business. One part of it is advisory, investment advisory, where we do debt, equity, financing arrangements for clients. Because this is more of a Ghana discussion, I'll just limit it to Ghana. We're very sector agnostic in the services that we provide. We raise capital. Traditionally, we've done a lot with financial institutions. We also work in the area of fintech. We're quite strong in fintech. ZPay Ghana is one of our clients that we've advised and raised capital for over the years, where they've been able to bring financial inclusion into Ghana, supporting the areas of remittances and digital termination, so changing the traditional way of doing business. In addition to that, we've identified lots of opportunities in various sectors that we're always happy to provide advice and do capital raising. We raise capital from some of the biggest investors that have a lot of focus into Ghana, as an example, and we direct it into the markets. Over the years, we've also set up our own fund, which is a hybrid fund that we use for inclusive financial investments. We are in the process of also setting up a second fund, which is more directed towards SMEs, and this would be second quarter of next year. And Ghana is one of the selected countries that we want to target this fund to try and build industry and support growth opportunities. Our main focus is to try and work with institutions at the growth level. So Series A sort of readiness, where we can do growth capital. We can also look at expansion, and we can also look at market creation, so growth opportunities for companies. And that has been a good, successful journey for us into Ghana and Africa in general. All our business is in Africa, but Ghana is one of our strong markets.
Wonderful, it's good to know. So I'm certain that the audience probably has questions for my panel members, and therefore, if anybody has a question and would like to ask, we'll be happy to take your questions. But I know that we have some individuals here. I can see John Kati in the back. He's a shareholder in Blue Skies, which is a free zones company. So you may be able to testify to how amazing Ghana is as a place to do business. Andrew Techiapia is also here from ZPay. Venom Capital, Kwame Pentin just spoke about investing in ZPay. So he probably is also a good person to talk about the amazing opportunities in Ghana and how well his business is doing. But before that, are there any questions? I'm surprised there are no questions. Oh.
Everything is clear.
Okay, but you're the chairman of MIF, so maybe. Let me ask. Yeah, it has.
My question is in terms of the credit profile of Ghana.
Yes.
That's one of the impediments for investment into the country. So any update on that one? What is your, what are the prospects of the credit profile?
Yeah. Well, I wanted Mr. Ashong-Lartey to speak, and then maybe you can add on.
Yeah, okay.
You can come here, yeah.
You're talking about the credit profile of the country. Yes. I think it's improving. We went down, 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 and like the popular say, you get to a point you can only rise. And through our discussions with the IMF, in terms of our restructuring program, I think even the rating agencies, in terms of what they put out there, we've seen an improvement in terms of the ratings they've been giving us. So I can confidently say that we'll go back to our glorious days. So if you're looking at Ghana, please don't change your mind. We'll certainly get back to better days. That's what I'll say. But maybe Richie.
Yes, and to add to that,
Yes.
my brother, I'm sure you know the reality of this credit rating matter, and I'm not going to mince any words on it. If that were the procedure followed by China and India, they won't be in the top 5 economies today. So when you come to Africa, there's a lot of prosperity there without credit ratings. And in fact, most of the businesses, that is from Europe, who have set up in Africa, including the Nestle's, the Cargills, the Barry Callebaut's, and all of it, are doing exceptionally well without so-called credit ratings from whether Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor, and all the rest of it. But we've also complained bitterly to these organizations that we feel that the way they handled our bonds and some of the matters were not exactly fair. So that is on one side. But we want you to know that nevertheless, all the areas that have been espoused, whether it's to do with places like minerals, investment, and so on, no credit rating can stop that. Because Ghana and South Africa, gold, sometimes we even get more gold in Ghana for the year than South Africa. No credit rating can change that. So we want to assure you that Africa is a place to do business. Come with your financing without any credit rating. And the business itself will finance it without all those, I would say, manufactured points that won't necessarily worry your business at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
He wants to say something.
Who wants to say something?
Right, okay, so I think Ed wants me to add to what Ambassador has just said. Let's assume that credit ratings are some of the benchmarks that you'll be using, irrespective of the reality that Ambassador has just mentioned. I think we've gone through quite a bit with the IMF now, which is premised on what you already know, that we all went through a global crisis, from COVID all the way down to the Ukraine war and other things that have affected all the countries globally. Ghana is not an exception, irrespective of the fact that Africa, for example, grew at its worst since existence, since records began. Ghana was an exception in terms of growth. At that period, growing above 1% when everybody was in the negative. We've also seen FDIs going up in Ghana, irrespective of the talks that we're having and the fact that we're going through the negotiations with the IMF. Yesterday, on Friday, the IMF espoused how we're dealing with the situation and about to release the next tranche for Ghana in line with the program that we have with the IMF. That is, in my view, that's a vote of confidence in the way the reforms are taking place. And we've also seen the projections in terms of growth, which is very positive. As we speak, we have about 7 car manufacturing plants that have set up in Ghana already. 10? Yes, 10, thank you. You know, and all these are international car assembly plants. That, for me, speaks volumes to the future and to the growth potential and to the cementation of these reforms that will enable Ghana to not, I won't say make the mistakes, because they're not really mistakes, but to sort of provide buffers against some of these global shocks that might occur. So we want to assure you, and I think Edward had mentioned it, that Ghana is a place to do business. I don't think that there are very few countries that you can really compare with Ghana on the continent when it comes to that. In mining, for example, we've been voted the second place to invest after Morocco. The fiscal regime and the political political stability has already been espoused by Edward. You know, so I would like you to take it back. You know, and I know that these credit ratings are a worry after talking to quite a number of investors. But we want to give you that reassurance that, you know, we are the best place to invest on the continent, really. Thank you.
Yes, and just to add one important point to what you just mentioned about stability. With the Global African Peace Index, Ghana is rated second in terms of peace and security, the whole of Africa. And the first is Mauritius, where our lovely neighbors, but we all know Mauritius is outside mainland Africa. So if you're looking at mainland Africa, we are number 1. So I'm just teasing my 2 friends over there. So basically, these are the things to look at. And when you come to Ghana, most people situate their business there and actually do business around the continent. They bring their children to school there, their wives are going to the market and everything in relatively safe environment. Then they go around the continent to start tapping business. And also in view of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the Secretariat is lodged in Ghana. And we're looking at not just being the administrative secretariat, but the commercial as well, so that it's sort of a gateway into Africa, and you'll feel free to do your business in a very comfortable environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you want to add on? Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think it should be good.
think integrity is the most important thing. So as we always say, the biggest C in credit is counterparty. And the one thing, as you say, in terms of the integrity of the actual country and the people within the country, I can tell you right now from my own personal experience, is second to none. So regardless of any of the other positives, it's one of the things that I'll certainly say.
Oh, we can clap for that. I mean, I think it's a fantastic point.
And in terms of innovation, what a lot of people also don't know, and I know you touched just very barely on it now, but in terms of everyone talks about African, in terms of being the breadbasket, but in terms of technology and your acceleration, in terms of what you've done in connectivity, we've been historically actively involved in helping with your fiber optics financing in country, delivering the Wi-Fi, as you said, across to the nation is very, very important. But also that you've got the number, you know that Ghana is now the #1 country in the world in ag-tech, which is commendable out of any country in the world. And that's been obviously very well supported in terms of your movement in terms of agri-processing. So just I think it's always important to have something. You always hear the bad news, but in terms of the good news, it's important to have an independent party give some independent news. So I can certainly vouch for Ghana as a country where there's a lot of integrity, and that the government has always, everyone's your friend when times are good, but in the times are bad, it's different. Because so credit ratings, hence, 80 cents on every dollar that's borrowed in America, it comes from a non-bank lender. So if it was based upon the bank to lend, they lend nothing. Banks have predominantly become deposit takers. So you've got to come with something new for Africa. But Ghana has been very progressive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Veronica wanted to ask a question.
So thank you. My name is Veronica Bolton-Smith. I actually work with the Ghana Jobs for Economic Transformation Programme, which is a UK government programme. It's one of the hats I wear. But I first wanted to talk to whoever was mentioning the credits agency. Please do compare and contrast with the African ratings agency, GCR, because you might find different information there. Secondly, just to commend the Ghanaian government, because actually, having worked on this programme, you're very committed to reforms, to legislation, to policies. And I've been working very closely with the Ministry of Trade and Industry on the auto policy and the component manufacturing policy, which is why I know how many OEMs are in country. In 2019, there were 0 OEMs. Currently, we have 10, and that's due to the policies that have been pushed through government. And the auto policy was pushed through in a record 3 months. So actually, hats off to you guys, because that's now encouraged international OEMs. We're now looking at component manufacturing to be taking place in Ghana. My question was around critical minerals. So congratulations on Atlantic Lithium. It's a fantastic investor that's come in. But what's the next stage? We're looking at Tesla actually being based in Ghana, and I'm looking for value addition from that, because ultimately we're trying to create jobs. So is there any strategy around that to kind of take that investment a little bit further and have a whole value chain in the country? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's a good question, and I love that question. I've had that question quite a number of times. The intention is yes. The whole strategy from government angle and from MIF is to look at the entire value delivery process and the entire value chain. So we want to leverage on the automobile development plan, for example, and we're having conversations with these companies for their transition towards the use of EVs. So we are prepared to invest in that. We're also looking at the processing plants. We're having conversations on the processing plants. And MIF is ready to invest in the processing plants as well. The other part that does not or is not really mentioned when it comes to the value chain has to do with the byproducts. So, for example, feldspar is a very major byproduct of lithium. We advocating a ceramics development plan in which MIF will invest in the feldspar and have the feldspar processing plants in Ghana with 100% offtake by Ghanaians, and then we take advantage of the after. For the after, for example, our first products that we exported in the after were actually ceramic products. And the feldspar that we're going to take or get from the Atlantic Lithium, or as a byproduct from Atlantic Lithium, is actually of the highest quality. So we're trying to get in to make Ghana the hub for ceramics on the back of the lithium. So to answer your question, yes, the value chain is what we are looking at, and that's the president's objective. We are not into look at the export of the spodumene just like that. We're looking at ensuring that value is added to the products.
Thank you
Adjoba,
very
let
much.
me just add this for the lithium. The lithium is also not just going to be for the electric cars. Lithium is now the biggest component for solar. And solar in itself is something that we're looking at in terms of green energy, in terms of carbon footprints, in terms of carbon credits for industry in Ghana. Because we don't want to go the way of China and India where we finish industrializing and then we are all in a polluted environment. So that is an area that a lot of people can come in. Once the lithium is mined for the electric vehicles and all the rest of it, how we can then go to the next level of solar. And a lot of the plants, even in the free zone areas in particular, are now using solar. And with the new technology of hydrogenizing solar, now you can even use it for heavy industry as well. So these are all very exciting tidbits that you can come and look at to make the whole industry wholesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we must hear Barton's contribution.
Yeah, there's something that I see very excited about salt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about salt?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Salts.
I think I made mention of the minerals, 17 minerals that pay royalties and that we're looking at, and the expansion, investment and expansion of the mineral chain. Salt is extremely important. Ghana and Senegal are the only countries on the West Coast that have the potential to produce industrial salt. In Africa, or in sub-Saharan Africa, Walvis Bay of Namibia is our biggest producer. I think their acreage is about 16,700 acres for industrial salt, with about over 1 million metric tons. Yeah, million tons of salt. The potential in Ghana, in just one enclave, which is called the Adan Songo salt, is 41,000 acres. That's more than twice the salt pan in Namibia, which is Walvis Bay. 41,000 acres at 99.9% purity. Wow. So for those who are in the mineral space here, you know salt has 14,000 uses. 14,000 uses going into caustic soda, bicarbonates, pharmaceuticals, textiles, road construction, alloys, etc. So for 14,000 uses, looking at 41,000 acres, looking at the government's one district, one factory, looking at the parks that we have, this is perhaps, and I say this, because I don't want any other mineral sector head to come at me, but perhaps salt may be the most important mineral for Ghana in terms of the value chain opportunities, in terms of the fact that unlike other mines, there are actually no mine life. There's no mine estimated mine life. This is, as we say in Ghana, sea never dries. So you don't have a situation where someone will tell you your mine life is 12 years or 15 years. There's actually forever. So you're looking at what could be or what is potentially the biggest industrial salt enclave on the entire continent. We are investing an initial $30 million in this project. Part of what we do in terms of investment is to ensure that our investments are listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. We are looking at the regional boards as well as we speak. But for investors, it is not just the salt. We are looking at the potential of usage of the industrial salt to invest in Ghana across these lines, whether it's pharmaceuticals, textiles, oil and gas, etc. These are areas that we can support in you entering into Ghana. But apart from that, we're also looking at possibility of co-investing in expanding this particular salt enclave. So we are doing an initial $30 million. The promoter and other banks have come in with $60 million, and we expect that we can hit 50% of the potential with an additional $30 million. And this is where I believe the opportunity is, and where we can actually have conversations with investors like yourselves. Thank you.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but perhaps...
Adjoba, we're running out of time. A very small point just to add to the salt. Now, the salt is not just for local use. We're looking at export. And salt has a ready world market. So when you come and invest in it, the company I was talking about is actually a free zone company now because they are mainly doing more than 70% of export. That is what their trajectory is. So you're very much welcome to come and invest in an industry where your market is ready in advance. Thank you.
So I wanted to find out whether there are any more questions from the audience, and I must add that the two previous speakers from the audience were not planted. They're completely independent. So you can take their word. Yeah, any other questions? John, do you want to speak?
Yeah, let me say something. Where is the mic?
We have the Ghana stand. Tomorrow we'll be there. So
Yeah.
We've got 10 factories across 7 countries in 3 continents. But I must say that probably we started off in Ghana with a lot of support from the free trade zones. Primarily one area not spoken, in addition to some of the, I'd say, import duty relaxed regimes that are quite favorable. The aftercare program is something that we found quite instrumental. And this is really just
Is the mic working?
service that helps with facilitating amongst the different government agencies. You know, we process fruit. We pride ourselves in getting fruit from farm to shelf, mostly throughout the retailers in Europe, in 48 hours. And so that means a lot of expedited customs. So we have customs, for instance, on site to the point that Ambassador Kwame, our site is closer to the farms. Reports actually all the way. It's around December, we actually have 4 flights from Brazil coming with 125 tons of mangoes each. And we actually just import them to Ghana to be processed and further exported to the rest of Europe. So I am doing my patriotic duty, but unfortunately in this case, it is a fact. I have to say that free trade zone has been quite instrumental. Full disclosure, Ambassador is my high school senior. We do have a long-lasting relationship, but Blue Skies actually created that, and it's been of tremendous support. Happy to take any questions if you have any directed to someone else.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. And to
So-
add to John, too, it's very important. His company CEO, because he's a partner, he's a shareholding partner. I know John looks very light-skinned, but he's mixed race. So he's a bit of everything. So we can talk to him, you also can talk to him. Let's all get together here. And yeah, talking about high school, we have another one to here, same high school. So I think today Presec is dominating, in fact, who are actually
This is a good example of good schools in
one
Ghana.
of the best schools in Ghana, I admit to give to them, but we are more represented here. And Blue Skies, for your information, they are 170 million plus company. 220 now, 220. Now doing agro-processing, pineapples, and so on. So there's so much money. Forget the credit rating. The things are happening. You know, they just bring these things to convolute the conversation. So we move in that direction.
Let me just hear from you quickly, and then...
The mic.
Do you want to start without the microphone?
Thank you. I was hoping you wouldn't ask, and if you notice, I've been quiet, but I do have good feedback for you. If the credit rating for Ghana was so bad, I think I probably would be out of business by now. I think during this process, it's been a good learning curve for most people who do financing. We've been able to still generate transactions into Ghana. in the areas of even banking and finance. Fintech has always been a good attraction point. In as much as the industry saw the downturn, some other people could also see the upside to continuous investment into this area. So it's been positive for us. I'm probably doing a good amount of business in Ghana now than I did even before. And that has been a big revelation to what we say and what actually happens. Also, I think I've lived long enough to also understand Ghana to the point where we've been here before, right? And eventually, economies always find a way of coming out of difficult situations that are presented to it. We've had how many structural adjustment programs? 2, 3? But Ghana still became the darling boy of Africa. So I do have a lot of good positive expectations for Ghana. We'll go through the curve, but we'll still be able to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must add also that we have exhibition booths on this floor. So Vedan Capital has a booth, and MIF, Free Zones, and GIPC have a joint booth. So if you have a question and you're not able to ask it here, you can visit our exhibition booth either today or tomorrow. The day has ended, so probably tomorrow, and there'll be people to attend to you, because some people might not want to speak in public, but might want to do face-to-face conversations instead. So thank you, everyone. We've run out of time. Thank you to my panel members, and yes.